Welcome back to An Athlete's Journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed. Today we have a special guest, a person I grew up playing against since I was about 12, 13 years old, whatever it is. It's been forever. We used to play at the vintage Victoria Park against each other, you know what I'm saying? All the way through high school, all the way through college. He's a great friend of mine, you know. Like I said, we grew up since about 12. And like I said, his dad, I knew his dad, was like personal, like gave me guidance at college, So really good dude. Like I said, Mike McDonald, AKA the guy who stole my high school championship my senior year.
Thanks for having me, Travis. I appreciate it. We go way back to those Victoria Park days, so I always appreciate that.
No, I always thought Mike was one of the best guards and probably, and this is in my opinion, the best California high school class ever. To be honest, like think about just the guards. We're just talking about just the guards with him, Kevin Augustine, Kevin Bradley, Kenny Bruner, Baron Davis. Those are just like the top right there. Just think about all those guys that just came from the 97 class.
Yeah, 97 was rough, man. When you think about those guys and playing them every weekend at AAU, it just gets you better. But all those guys are doing well. And I don't know, Travis, you probably have your rank of those. So I'd be curious to hear your rank of those top five right there.
I would say out of the five, you figure like Baron had to be uno. I thought that, Kenny was obviously great in his own right. But I thought Bean was underrated. Kevin Bradley was really underrated as a guard. I think Kenny and Baron got, if you want to say quote unquote, most of the publicity. But I always thought Kenny, and yourself was really, really good. I thought, Augustine was probably at he was still good.
Yeah.
Out of those five, I would put Augustine at and no offense, Kevin, you're still my bro.
Yeah, Kevin, you're my bro too, man. But we all know Modern Day was bringing their own refs to tournaments. We can talk about later.
Pretty much. Cheated us in the second round of the state championship when we played them up there.
Yeah.
So they ended my high school career. Mad at them too. Mad at y'all for the CIF, but mad at them too.
I agree with you, man. Obviously BD, is who he is. Kenny, who I still talk to all the time, he's over in Australia right now doing some great stuff. But Bean he's always underrated, in the rankings, how people looked at his game. The true people in LA always know, Bean was legit. So
So I say you guys were all in that A group, all in that, that top echelon of guards from 97, And I'm not even, obviously Jeff is being and that's just point guards. I'm not even talking about, like two guards like Jeff Chapangay, Billy Knight, and so on and so forth, that class, like I said,
big dudes.
Big dudes. I was Jason Aaron,
Burgess, Chenoweth, you, Lakey, Jamal Mosley.
And it can keep going,
Keeps going.
Like I said, it was and Jason and Jaron Collins, shoot, it can go. 97 is stupid as far as like talent. You got Shea in there. Like I said, people forget Jeff Chapangay was 97. He played in the NBA and overseas, and 97 was insane. Like I said, even I put Leland in there. What I'm saying? Like
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Leland. Like 97 was stupid. Like I said, it was every game you was going to get somebody, at Victoria Park in that league. There was a dude that went to Narbonne. I can't think of his name. Larry. Is it Larry?
Larry Singleton.
Yes.
He was on my team.
Yes.
At Victoria Park at Slam and Jam. He was dunking in the 6th grade.
Yeah, dude. I was like, who is this man you guys got? He ain't 12 years old.
Like Duncan.
No, like he was like, boom, like coming like, yeah. I was like, who the hell is this guy? It was two guys I remember that was like really, really dunking.
Yeah.
It was him and Shea.
Yeah.
You know, that was in our group. You know.
You forgot about the dude with the Jerry curl who was playing for ARC.
Oh, Ron? Yeah,
Ron.
Yeah,
Ron was
Ron.
dunking too.
Ron was like that. James Worthy. You know what I'm saying? You know, Jason and Jerry were like 6'10" dunking, you know, like
right.
6'10" and it's easy. You know what I'm saying? But like obviously I got mad love for Jason and Jerry. But anyway, let's get into it, Mike, man. How did your basketball journey start?
Yeah, at a young age. I mean, as you said, you know, my pops played basketball for a long time growing up, played for Long Beach State, you know, his numbers in the rafters now, retired there, which is great. Played for the Celtics for a few years, won an NBA title there in '76, was part of that famous, you know, the triple overtime game against the Phoenix Suns, and then played overseas for a long time. So I grew up in the Philippines when he was still playing there. And so I was around basketball from, you know, age of 3 until on. And yeah, so, you know, we moved back to the States. He gets a grad assistant job at Long Beach State as one of their assistant coaches. And then from there, I was always in the gym, you know, sitting down, watching practice, trying to shoot around on the sidelines, getting yelled at for balls rolling out on the court during practices, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I was into all kinds of sports growing up, but, you know, basketball was truly my first love at that point, and then, you know, just kind of progressed from there.
Okay. Did you play? Were you interested in any other sports?
I played baseball growing up. So for a long time, baseball was my favorite sport. And, you know, up until I think it was my sophomore year of high school. So I played varsity baseball my freshman year. And then going into my sophomore year, I kept missing that tournament in, where was it? There was like a tournament in Vegas in April, and I kept missing it because of baseball. And finally I was like, look, I'm not having as much fun playing baseball. I'm just going to put all my energy into basketball. But that wasn't until I was 14, 15.
Okay.
You know, before that I was playing hoops. I was playing baseball. I played soccer growing up for a long time. I was just played golf for a long time. I was trying to be like Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods, you know, so like I was into all kinds of stuff. I was just like running around.
No, I remember the April Vegas tournament. Like everybody was there, and like you got to see not only your group, but you got to see the older people, which was like sweet, you know. Yeah. So I remember that.
The first Vegas tournament I went to was the one where Steven Jackson came in with the shoes untied late to the game, dunked on some dude with his shoes untied. He was wearing Chuck Taylors. And I just remember looking at him like, who is this dude?
Right.
Like, this is something different.
No, definitely. It was, I mean, I remember, I think, when was it? Because like we would play Barron in you know, the championship. We beat K-Swiss in the finals. My 7th grade year, 8th grade year, we lost to a team from Oakland in the championship.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like my 9th grade year, I just went up there. I didn't play with anybody, but like I saw like Mike Bibby and just like, you know, just averaging like 30 or 40. I was just like, damn, you know, like this is insane. And then obviously the big year was when Kevin Garnett came out there with Paul Pierce. Yeah, and they played Jelani McCoy's team. Yeah, Shea was out there, and like it was like that's when the picture of Street and Smith had Kevin Garnett like this bar above the rim blocking Jelani's like hook shot.
Right.
I was like, this is the new time about going pro. Oh my god. He's ready.
Before the videos, right? So like you didn't have YouTube and all that stuff, and it was just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Jelani at that point was just banging on everybody. Mm-hmm. So to see anyone come into that gym who could kind of hang with him, I mean, for me that was, you know, mind blowing. And then you had like Illusionman playing point with Kenny and Aaron, and it was like star-studded group.
It was insane. It was probably the most craziest like Vegas game I've ever seen. You know?
Yeah, but those are the games too. Like growing up, you see those and you kind of reassess and look at yourself and think, "Hey, I need to go practice." like I think I'm really good, and then I just saw some dude do something I've never seen before. So
yeah. I mean, that's how I think we all felt with Shea, because I'm like, this dude can't be in the same grade as us.
Yeah.
Like when I first played against Shea, it was at the vintage Victoria Park.
Yep.
I was 11 playing with my dad's Boys and Girls Club team, and he was on PTI.
Yeah,
it was like their national champs. I'm like, what do you mean national champs? I I'm used to playing around the city. It's like, no, dude, they're the best team in the country. I'm like, yeah, right. Not believing it.
Right.
Shea gets a steal. He comes down, like, we're 11. He comes down, left hand. Boom.
Yep.
Did he just dunk it?
I'm going to take you back farther than that.
Okay.
So my first AAU team I played on was with Joe Perry in the Cerritos Panthers.
Okay.
So that team was me, Kenny Bruner, Shea was on that team, and Jason Hart played on the older team. And I'll never forget when all of a sudden, like, we won some we weren't going to lose any tournaments, right? And Kenny and I still laugh about this. So we played some tournament in Santa Barbara. The very next week, Kenny, Shea, Jay Hart were all at PTI. And that's when everyone was getting Nikes and everything else, and people were dishing out some other stuff. And
of course. I felt like at one point everybody played with PTI. At one point, just because like they had the Nikes.
I was getting shoes from them, but I never played for them. I just asked. I was just like, can I get those 94 Barclays?
Yeah, I remember that. I was there, right? Yep. Pat Barrett. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
Obviously, we're going into the AAU. So when did you move to Slam and Jam?
Yeah. So I think it was around my sixth, seventh grade year. I played with with Joe Perry's team for a long time, and then we just kind of started to disband a bit. And then I started trying to figure out, hey, what's the next move in terms of AAU? And at that point, you had K-Swiss and Thad, and those guys were doing great stuff. You had PTI, you had ARC, and the Twins, and they had their whole team. And we met Izzy and just kind of really hit it off with Izzy Washington. My parents hit it off, and I knew that, at least my parents knew that, hey, this guy was going to look out for me, whether it was basketball, off the court, those types of things. And so we said, hey, let's give it a go. And at that point, Slam and Jam as well was like the biggest name in AAU. They were throwing that gigantic tournament. It was a national group. So it was just a great experience for me to play with Izzy and like be part of his life. It was really cool.
No, definitely, man. Like I felt like in everybody, this is when I met this guy. Seventh grade, I think he was playing with Slam and Jam. Him and Kenny Bruner, we played them at Victoria Park. I was with ARC, and they beat us. I remember that.
Yeah.
The dude, your teammate Larry, had a breakaway and reverse dunked it. He had hair on his chest in the seventh grade. I'm like, this dude is not in seventh grade. He has hair on his chest.
Right.
I saw him drive up to the game, but I was like, okay, so they serious. They had the, you ties. It was the backcourt and backcourt. Barron and Bean was K-Swiss, and you and Kenny were Slam and Jam. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like I said, with ARC, we were just bigger than everybody. It was like me, Jason, and Jaron.
Yep.
Like
running that flex offense.
They was like OG.
You guys had two plays and played zone.
Yeah.
Like the seventh grade.
There was no Jason ain't getting out no perimeter. Jason gonna keep his butt in that paint. You know what I'm saying? And Coach Ron Quarterman,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Was like, oh no, we Jason and Jaron, paint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Jaron obviously a little bit more all around, but Jason and Jim, we're gonna dominate you. Slow you guys, Slam and Jam, pressing butt down.
Right.
Slow K-Swiss down, we just punish you, just dump.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, and then so I played for them for a long time, and then the last team I played for was Pump and Run.
Yeah.
So when the Pump started trying to make a move, doing some of those things on the AAU side. Mm-hmm. Had some good conversations with them, and even to this day, I still talk to those two guys, and they're just been amazing to me and my family, and, joined their team. So our first team at Pump and Run was me, Billy Knight, Jamal Mosley, who, is now the coach of the Orlando Magic. And then we had a bunch of other dudes who just kind of come around and play. Brandon Beeson, who went to Woodbridge with Burgess and ended up playing at San Luis Obispo. So we had a squad, and it was great playing with those guys and, be part of that Pump family.
Okay. So what made you go to Long Beach Poly, Yeah, I was going to get into that. Obviously.
The question should be, why don't you want to go to Long Beach?
Right.
I mean, it's the home of scholars and champions, right? You just watch the Super Bowl; it was all over. Everything was all over Long Beach Poly at the Super Bowl. You got Billie Jean King, you got Snoop, you got It was. I mean, for me personally, so there's 2 high schools in Long Beach that are great: Milliken, Wilson, that are close to my house. Poly, we thought, would give me the best of what I needed for school stuff, for academics. They have some great academic programs, so like really accelerate on that side, which is really important to me, has always been. And then also on the athletic side, there wasn't a better basketball team in Long Beach. I mean, I know Eric White, Mike Teese would think differently at Wilson, but just the tradition that we had at Poly and still have to this day, was kind of hard to beat for where I lived. So, and I wasn't going to go to a private school, so it was, I wanted to go to a big public high school, and we had 4,000 kids, and that experience to me was, unbelievable.
No, definitely, man. I figured you would end up by modern day with how they recruited, everybody. But no, Long Beach Poly always has, and always been a powerhouse as far as football and basketball. So definitely, man, I give you so much props on that. Like I said,
there's history there too. I mean, my mom went to Long Beach Poly.
Oh, she lived
around the corner from the school.
Oh,
so there wasn't going to be an option in Long Beach if there was a place to go.
Okay, so you're at Long Beach Poly. What was your most memorable moment in high school besides that CIF championship?
The dunk I got against A.B. Miller at the Trebico Hills tournament.
I remember that dunk.
I don't know who else was.
My coach has the tape of that game. I remember that.
Most memorable moment. I tell you what, man. I think my freshman year, that team, it was all older people. I mean, I was the only freshman on that team. Leland got called up for the playoffs. And just the way that those guys really took me in and just was like, hey, we need to help you develop. And it was like Larry McCants, right? So I'd work out with Larry after practice. And for those that don't know Larry, I mean, he's an amazing ball handler, right? So he's got handles galore, and everyone in Long Beach knows Larry, and he was on that team. So I work out with Larry afterwards. James Brown was a great shooter. He would kind of push me to shoot a ton. Zarek Williams, I mean, Brian Hagens is on there, called him Big B. I mean, the team was unbelievable. And they just kind of took me in and said, hey, you're going to be part of this. Chris Hardy, all those guys were like, this is kind of what we stand for. We're all together. Let's just go out and play hard. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of set the tone, I think, for everyone in high school for those next 4 years, was being on that team, kind of understanding how those guys operated.
No. I remember that team because I think we played Long Beach Poly in the state when I was at Crenshaw. And thanks for bringing that. Thanks for bringing that piece up. Yeah. Now you were there, and like I said,
I was there. But that team, I mean, you talk about high school teams. I mean, that Crenshaw team was no joke. I mean, you had Tremaine was on that team. You had Tank on the team. You were on the team. Bean was on the team. You had those 2 shooters on the wings. I can't remember their name.
Reggie McFan and Reggie Arch.
Yeah, dudes could shoot it. I mean, that was Chris was on that team. Johnson. I mean, that was college team. Chris bouncing balls off people's heads. And
yeah.
And, where were we? Florida, the Fort Myers tournament.
Yeah. Chris is I would say for me, he was just my crazy older brother. He was my crazy older brother then. He was my crazy older brother at UCLA. You know what I'm saying? He would go from 1 to 1,000 real fast.
That was a good team.
No, I would say this is just me. Like I said, I might be biased, but I thought that was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, California team in history.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would love to say Poly's team was, but that team was stacked top to bottom. I mean, you guys were playing 10 people, and I think all 10 of those people got high level D1 scholarships.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. If it wasn't for school and stuff, and they would have been D1 people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're obviously one of the top players in the state. You win You win the CAF championship. I don't know if I want to go into the game. I just want to say I felt like we had a chance because the first game y'all beat us, and I was like, okay, in the tournament, we didn't have our second best player. Fine.
Right.
But in the CIF championship, we had just beat Long Beach Jordan, the defending champs, in our house. And I'm like, oh yeah, we about to rematch with Poly. We got our second best player back, Dwayne Gaines. We about to upset the world. And then, Mike comes down, do what he do, little dribble three. And, y'all have McIntyre, who was killing us.
Yep.
Ricky Anderson
went to Arizona. Yeah, I mean, just an easy 20-point victory for a title. No big deal.
Yeah, it was about 16. It wasn't 20. Well, so you have, a lot of like scholarships and like offers from schools.
Yeah.
One, you should have went to Long Beach State. You should have just followed your dad's tradition, and then we could have played together there. So
that's true.
I could have put that out there. But what made you choose Stanford?
Yeah, it's crazy. First, it's crazy that I live in Boston now because, like BC was offering me, Virginia, some of these schools on the East Coast, and I was like, no, man, that's
yeah,
it's freezing out there. It's so cool. The true story behind it is, so, I limited my schools at the end. So I committed early. So, back then people were waiting until like midway through their senior years to commit. I was, July 1st, they can start calling you, offering you whatever. I committed in August of that year. I was like, this is great, but let's get this over with. And, my final five are mostly Pac-10 schools. I think Utah at the time wasn't in the Pac-10, but I kind of was mostly staying on the West Coast, except Texas. I looked at Texas hard because they were, running up and down and just whatever they do. And I had a conversation with the coach at Utah at the time. It was Majerus and Donnie Daniels. Daniels was at, I think, is he still in Gonzaga?
He might be at Gonzaga. He was at Cal State Fullerton after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So he's been around for a long time, and I had a conversation with him because I was really looking at Utah too, because they had, Andre Miller was still there, and he was going to be out for 2 years. And he told me, he said, look, you need to go to a school where if you get hurt, you're still going to be happy going to that school. So he says this to me, and it was truly the first coach that had that conversation with me, like, hey, look, if you get injured or something goes wrong, like, are you happy at this school? And I thought, well, Utah, and I said to him on the spot, I was like, well, I'm not going to come to Utah then. And like, no offense against Utah, because like at the time, like now I snowboard and do all this other stuff where I'm thinking like it snows there all the time. I don't want to be there. Yeah. So that's like how I'm going into it as a 17-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, the things that always been really important to me were academics, athletics, like what's the best school where I can mesh those two out of these 5 schools that I'm trying to figure out. And then it became crystal clear as, just kind of looking through those, it was like, I'm going to Stanford. So, I decided, told my parent. So he tells me, actually, this is another crazy story. So I don't even tell my parents, like, this is the decision. I go down to San Diego for a weekend. I'm staying at Luke's house, Walton's house, hanging out, playing hoops because, we had played AAU for a little bit, so became friends, and have some crazy conversation with Bill. He's talking about Stanford, all this stuff. And I remember calling my parents and being like, hey, I think I'm ready to commit. Like, it's Stanford. That's where I need to go. And so I called them that day and told them, and, that's truly the best decision I've ever made. It's, you can't go wrong at that school. Just, from me going there. So they had been the two Sweet 16s before I got there. The UCLA dinner happens. So the twins can't go to UCLA anymore. I start calling them like, hey, I know you're looking at Stanford. It was Stanford and Arizona for them. I'm like, I know you're looking at Stanford. So finally get them to come to Stanford. I say I get them to come, but obviously that was a different deal. We had great success there. And, we had 3 Pac-10 titles in a row, which won't probably happen for a long time. We went to a Final Four, should have gone to another one. And like on the academic side there, you can't beat the connections that you make and just the stuff that you learn at that school. I mean, you're walking into a place where, yeah, you're number one in the country, but the person who lives down the hall from you has like won 2 Olympic gold medals. So, you're not really a big deal anymore.
Right.
It puts like life into perspective, right? Where you think you're doing something really cool, but the person next to you is either starting a gigantic company or they're doing something else that no one else in the world is doing. So, yeah, I mean, it's a special place.
No, definitely. I mean, I've heard obviously a lot of stories about them. Did you like run into anybody who became like a tech person or did anything like, at Stanford that you was like, oh my God, you get to Stanford with me?
Yeah, I mean, there's a long list. I think the craziest thing that happened, I mean, so like obviously my class was 97, that's Chelsea's class, and that whole thing, and she's great, and but the craziest thing that I think that I learned is that one of the guys I knew in college like has people, and when I say has people, he like goes back to his country and has people who do everything for him.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right, like no idea, he's just like unassuming, like dude in college, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these posts like once the internet kind of blows up and Instagram and all this stuff, you're reconnecting with people you haven't talked to for a long time and realize like he's leading people and like lives in like a palace and like does all this stuff, and you're just like mind blown from it. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember when we played y'all at UCLA, Chelsea was like in the y'all locker room, like waiting, like in the back. I'm like, because it was like all these dudes like kind of blocking off. And it was like, oh, that's Chelsea Clinton. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. That's proper. Okay.
Yeah. There's just, there's some people there that do amazing stuff. And well, again, man, that list is so long that, you can't even get into it.
No, I agree. So what's the hardest thing from high school to college?
Yeah. For like sports, I would, I think
both sports and life.
I mean, I think that one, the time management, like when you're looking at taking classes. So, I mean, whatever college you go to, right? Like it's a whole different level. Like in high school, you got all your stuff set up. You're in one place the whole time. That's all you need to be. But if you're going to play sports in college, right? So like you have class in the morning. If you got to go to the training room, you got to go to the training room at some point. You got 3-hour practice. You got to try to eat after practice. You got to try to keep up and do all the other schoolwork. So like the time management side of it. But then when you look at like the sports part, man, I never knew how strong people could be until like you got to college. Like you are playing against men, and like the weight programs and all that stuff. I mean, they transform your body to handle all that. But for me, it wasn't the speed part, because I tell my kids I used to be fast, so like that was okay. It was more like just the strength part and like trying to get to where you need to go and getting bumped off spots and some of that type of stuff.
No, I remember when I was at UCLA, I thought it was pretty strong until I went against Jared Henderson, and he was just demolishing me, in practice. I'm like, is everybody like him? And then I realized he was special, but like, I was like, dude,
right?
He's another level of strength,
Yep.
I couldn't even I would try to back him down, like he would just
right.
No freshman, you're not going anywhere. And like,
it's a different deal.
It's a different level of strength.
Yeah. The other thing is that we had a couple guys on our team that, like, my first pickup game, they were like, hey, have Mike guard Mark Thompson. This dude, Mark Thompson, he was a legend at Palo Alto High School, right? Decided to go to Stanford. I know nothing about Mark Thompson except that he's like a walk-on, basically. Little did I know Mark Thompson's got range to like 30 feet. Dude, he hit like 5 threes in my face, and I was thinking, I'm never going to play. Like, if this is the dude who doesn't play at all, like, I'm never going to play.
Right.
I'll never forget it.
Okay, no, I got you. No, I remember it. Like, the funny thing is, You guys are always known for like physicality and shooting. You know, that's always like Stanford's calling card. Big Tim, was it Tim
Young,
and Mark Manson and Jason Jaron and just physical.
Yeah, 6'11" dudes. Yeah,
just big dudes and you guys shooting from the outside threes. I just remember that.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess my other question would be like, what was the greatest? Because I remember you guys like number 1 and number 2 in the country when we played y'all at Long Beach State.
Yeah.
You know, that was like the most packed I had seen Long Beach State. Like it was like standing room only because you guys was big. You know, number 3 in the country. What was your biggest triumph in college, and then like maybe your biggest failure?
Yeah. I think. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we, the Final Four, obviously unbelievable, right? Like the fact that you can play in the tournament is unbelievable. Like sitting back as a 43-year-old being like, yeah, we went to 4 NCAA tournaments. That's an amazing accomplishment, amazing thing, and get all these experience. But I'll tell you, man, my favorite win that we ever had was at Arizona my senior year. So we had never beaten them there. We had lost at the buzzer once and got blown out twice. And we beat them at home, but we hadn't beaten anyone in McHale. So I have some family history at U of A. My like great grandfather was the first Black athlete at U of A. And they run a story on it that morning in the paper. And we hadn't had, again, like little success there. I mean, and this is a team they had Jason Gardner, Gill, Luke, Michael Wright, like their team is rich, like, Jefferson, their team is stacked. And, we beat them at home. And that was like, I remember in the locker room, we were all just so excited because we knew like, hey, we just beat them 2 weeks before we beat Duke. So like, we should win the title. Like we should win the national title this year. And that leads me to my disappointment. So So that year, I mean, we go to the tournament. We're number 1 in the country, the whole thing, have like all these big wins. We lost to UCLA at home by a couple. I think Jerron hit a shot at the buzzer or something. And then we lost Arizona at home by 2. So we get to tournament, like have a couple games, get to the Elite 8. We're playing Maryland, like Juan Dixon. Who else is on that team? Steve Blake.
Terrence Morris,
Taj Gibson, like, their team was good, and we thought we could win. They were a 6th seed or whatever seed, and whatever. And they came out, man, and did not miss a shot. They shot like 60% from the field or something crazy. And we battled, but ended up losing. And I thought that team could have won the title. And in the Final Four that year, Duke played Arizona in the championship game, and Duke ended up winning. I've never watched that game. I didn't watch it. I didn't want to watch it. I was like, that was our shot. And for someone like me who was kind of trying to figure out if they were going to play anymore, I was like, man, we could have gone out as like a champion, but it just wasn't meant to be. So.
No, like I said, for me, I respect that. I think, you guys was always really, really, really good. I think your years is like you want to quote unquote say, I would say maybe for like a little bit before you, for like a 7-year span, Stanford basketball was really legit. And I think in your 4 years, it was really, really legit. Like number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country. Like you said, Final Four, Elite 8s, Sweet 16s. Like you guys were really, really talented. Like y'all swept us my freshman year. And y'all swept us my sophomore year too. So
Well, it's funny, man. I was thinking about this, and as we were setting up to talk, I was like, those UCLA games were always just battles, right? Like just complete battles. But the one dude from UCLA I always felt like didn't get enough respect was Earl, right? Like he and it showed because he ended up with like a long NBA career coaching. So like all those people respect him, right? But like I just remember freshman year playing against him, and I was like, who is this dude? Like, obviously everyone else is getting all these big accolades and all this stuff, but I'm like, who is this dude? And Chris Weems, who on our team was a junior, knew him from growing up and was like, hey, this dude can play. And of course, like I'm stubborn thinking, no, he can't. Like I know Barron can play, but like, I don't know who this dude is.
Yeah.
So like, I always had mad respect for him and going up against him, twice a year, and we would battle it out. But he was one of those dudes where I was like, yeah, he should get more accolades than he does.
Oh no, definitely. Like I remember when I saw Earl before like a Nike camp. He was there with us and all that, and they was talking about he was thinking about going to UCLA. He talked to me for a minute, whatever, and I was like, yeah, UCLA, Arizona, Long Beach State, Syracuse, some other schools, whatever. And then like when I first played with them, we played in the Eddie Jones All-Star game, right?
Okay, yeah,
and like it was obviously everybody. I don't know if you didn't play in that one, did you?
No.
Yeah. It was. I remember Kevin Augustine played. It was like me, Barron. Not me, Barron. Me, Billy, Earl was the UCLA guys.
Yeah.
Jeff, and Greg Lakey.
Okay.
The SC guys. Some guys that went to Georgia. Georgia Tech. Like it was a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And I remember in the All-Star game, Earl was picking up Kevin Augustine full court.
Yeah.
And Kevin Augustine turned into Magic Johnson because he kept spin. Like I was like, he is turning him on like a defensive drill in an All-Star game. I'm just like, dang, this dude got defense, And that's how he always played like that. He never ever let up. Like I was like, you can't in the All-Star game, Earl?
Yeah.
He's like, that's how I'll play. This is how I'll play. And I was like, man, that is crazy.
Yeah, he was good, man. Again, like you talk about Bean, right? Like one of those dudes who, everyone knows he's good, but when the rankings come out, he's not, in that top 20, top 50. But I mean, obviously he had a long NBA career.
No, definitely. He like I said, if you want to say him and Matt had the most, I mean, Barron has success, but Earl played longer.
Right.
And obviously he's coaching. I mean, Matt got a ring, so
Yeah, and people don't know that Matt could have been a Gronk if he wanted to. I mean, that dude, like they talk about LeBron and playing football, but they don't know that Matt was like the number one. I think he was the number one tight end in the country. Like when he ended up at UCLA, and that was a big talk. Like, is he going to play both sports there? People don't know like what kind of athlete that dude was. So
no, I saw highlights, and he was like, "Bro, I really could have played football." And I was like, "I know." And I was like, "Man, this dude's nice." Like, some dudes say that, and they're like, "Yeah," but no, he was really nice.
Yeah.
So, what would be your biggest lesson that you learned in college?
Yeah, I would say just don't waste the opportunity. There's so much afforded to you by being able to go to college, whether you're going to play sports or whether you're not, that it's just an opportunity a lot of people don't have, a lot of people don't get, right? To be able to take, I think, full advantage of the networking opportunities in college. When I got to school, someone told me, they said, look, all those people who sit in the front row there, right? Like, you go to these dinners and all these things, like all the players or all the students will like huddle in a corner and talk to themselves. They were like, look, you need to meet those people. Yeah. And whether it's like nothing down the road, but, just like pick their brain, ask them questions, see what they do, learn about the world. Mm-hmm. That was someone who told me that right when I got to school. They said, what you're afforded here is ability to connect, to network, and also just learn about life from a different perspective. And so like, I would just say to take advantage of that opportunity as much as you can while you're there.
No, man, I would say like you're 100% right. Not even knowing like, at UCLA, like everybody's kind of just hung around each other kind of thing in this bubble. Yeah. If I'd have known what I know now, I'd have been like, all right, see y'all. I'm about to meet everybody in this room. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I do, because I always think like, yeah, I met a lot of people, but man, I would have networked even harder.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, like, hey, what are you investing in? Like, I have $30. Like, can I be part of Google when you guys are in the garage? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. Like what you can learn just from having random conversations.
Agreed, man. So
yeah.
So you have this tremendous college career. You're one of the top guards in the country. Do you go to Chicago for the pre-camp stuff?
So I didn't go to Chicago. I got invited to Portsmouth.
Oh,
And that
okay.
was, so I played in Portsmouth, which was, as you know, like there's Chicago, Portsmouth. And so I went to Portsmouth and played. And then coming out of Portsmouth, I got an offer to play with the Cavs in their summer league.
Mm-hmm.
So at the Rocky Mountain Review in Utah. So I go to that play. I actually have a hilarious story about that trip. So, like we're in practice and doing all this stuff. So it was me, Tyson Wheeler, who went to Rhode Island,
Yeah,
and then
I remember him.
Robert O'Kelly, I think, or Robert Kelly went to Wake Forest. We were the three guards. So we were rotating who would start. And so we go to the games and I'm like, okay, what games am I starting? And I look, I'm like, okay, bing. I'm like, sweet. We're playing this dude. They have a rookie point guard. I'm going to tear this dude up. Right. Well, I'm looking at him during warm-ups a little bit. He's like shooting some like weird floaters. I'm like, done. Like we're gonna smoke this dude. So game starts, first play, this dude just sprints around me. And I'm like, oh, wow. I was like, that was quick. Like quicker than I had seen before, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm thinking I'm just gonna like hit him in the throat, do something. He does some like funny, like hesitation, stutter step. And it'll make sense when I tell you it is, like stutter step, pull up 15-footer in my face. And now I'm like, I don't know what to do because now this dude just hit a jumper in my face. So I can't get too close to him because he's just going to go around me. Right. So I try to navigate it during the game. I end up playing okay. He plays great. He has like 20 something, which like, I don't think I gave up 20 that whole year at any point. Anyway, I call my dad and he's like, hey, how was the game? And I was like, Dad, this dude who I just played would have been a top 5 pick if he played in the United States. And he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yes. He's like, the little French dude? I'm like, yes, the 18-year-old. It was Tony Parker.
Oh, not even really knowing, right?
No, had no clue who this dude was. I just knew he was the last pick of the first round. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, whatever. But like, I mean, he was amazing. So I come out of that. Was insane. He was, I had no chance. And my college roommate still makes fun of me about it when I tell him the story. So we come out of it, and it's like July. And I'm trying to figure out getting a couple offers to go overseas. Nothing really left in the league, and I get accepted to this graduate school program at Stanford, and it's going to be like tuition's paid for, books are paid for. And now I'm kind of like, okay, like that's plan B, right? Mm-hmm. So a week before classes start, I finalized 2 offers to go overseas and play. One's in Germany, and I can't remember where the other one was, but they were going to pay me like, I think $32,000. Tuition's $47,000. So I'm like, I got to go back to school. Like I'm not going to be able to afford to go back and like pay this if I can't do it now. So I thought, I'll go now, take a year off of hoops, work out, then go play. School year's going great. I get an internship. I'm realizing like, wow, this is what like students do. They have all this free time to actually like do work. Man, this is like unbelievable. So my dad calls me in January. He's like, hey, have you been working out? And I was like, yeah, but definitely not working out enough to like go play pro sports. So that was the end of my basketball career, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a job. I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah, I was like, it's time to go get a job. So yeah, man. I mean, I look back at that and don't have any second regrets, I guess. It was interesting, like knowing I wasn't playing somewhere where I knew I could be playing somewhere for a little bit. Cause like people ask like, hey, why aren't you playing? Like, what are you doing? You kind of get a side eye sometimes when I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go back to school. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but yeah, I mean, I loved my hoops career. Although short-lived outside of high school, it was, it's just an amazing experience.
Well, like I said, I felt like, you were one of the, like I said, you were through growing up to high school to college, you were one of the top guards I had seen, in every level. And so like, I always wonder, like, you definitely could have had a 10 plus 15-year career easy.
Yeah.
overseas, it could have made a lot of money. And I always wanted to know kind of like, how come we never played? That was one of the questions I definitely had in my head.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only time I actually thought like, man, maybe I should do this. So I worked for a company for about 2.5 years. When I got out of school, this venture capital company that was started by Ronnie Lott, and I went to go visit my boy who's playing in Paris. One was playing in Paris, one was playing in Italy, and I went to go visit them for like a week apiece. And
nice.
It was nice, and it was real nice. we would work out, and at one point, one of the coaches was like, "Hey, do you want to try to play?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." But then I thought, like, man, these guys have this like really cool experience over here, and like they're doing all these things. But again, like I've seen the other side of it too, and for me, it just wasn't going to be a fit for what I was trying to do, I guess, long term or in that moment. So.
No, I understand that. I think, like I said, I think one of the reasons I feel like, you were ahead of the game in the transition wise, as far as like being from an athlete to what your transition is now. I think a lot of us, we're stuck. Like, to be honest, like I remember I got injured when I was after my 6th or 7th year overseas, and I missed a whole season because I had stress fracture in my shin. So I missed a whole year. And that year, was like a year that my son's mom, got pregnant with my son, things of that nature. And I was like, man, I want to keep playing, right?
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what I want to do besides play, you know? And my dad was like, and my dad obviously joined the military, joined the Air Force. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like when I actually made a phone call to the Air Force. And the first question they asked me is like, do you have a problem firing your gun for your country?
Yeah.
I'm just like, whoa, well, this is okay. I wasn't, if it's him or me, I guess I wasn't thinking like that, but okay. So, yeah, I was like, Dad, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet.
Yeah.
And so
it's hard. Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard, man. Like you said, it's any transition, right? Like, like we were saying, you do something for 20 something years of your life, and then all of a sudden one day it's like gone. And like, what do you do with that time, and how do you kind of use it? I mean, I remember, so I'm back at school the year after I played, right? So like that time from 3 o'clock to 6 had always been occupied. So I remember the first week, I didn't have anything to do from 3 to 6. You were kind of like lost and trying to figure it out. Like, man, like, what am I supposed to be doing now?
Right. So you program your school even after college around like, oh, I got this 3 to 6 kind of thing I have to do kind of thing. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No. I don't know.
No, trust me. It's a transition. So based on your experience, Mike, what would be your best advice for like, the future Mike McDonald's of the world, as far as like sports, life, what would be your best advice?
Yeah. I mean, I try to give advice to my kids and they don't listen at all. So yeah, it could just go over everyone's head. But, I would think, there's only so many opportunities we get to do so many different things. And, I think being able to take chances and in doing different things kind of out of your comfort zone and, just trying new things. I mean, whether it's success, a failure, whether you're going to learn or succeed at it, sometimes you just don't know until you go and actually sometimes take a leap. Obviously there's constraints with that, right? There's financial constraints and, people have families and trying to provide for them, but, there's always ways to come around to those things, I think. But like, I would say if you have an opportunity to do something, at least give it a shot and try it.
No, it makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think, if you can, like you were saying, like, I know everybody has, responsibilities, family, kids, whatever the case is. But if you want to try to pursue a dream, you
Mhm.
know, at least to give it a shot to pursue it. You know what I
Yeah.
say? Like, even if it doesn't come through for you, at least give it a shot of like, you know, I tried my best, it didn't work out, or I tried my best and it worked.
Yeah.
So
I saw a stat today or something today. I was reading something and it said Morgan Freeman didn't have his first acting role till he was 46,
now think about that,
which is crazy,
right?
right?
His
That's
Samuel Jackson, dude. Like seriously, like Samuel Jackson didn't become big till he was like in his 40s.
right.
You know,
Right.
he was getting
Oh
killed
wait,
off and all
maybe
that.
it was Samuel L. Jackson. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, man,
It could have been the Coming to America scene.
you know what I'm saying? Like he was in a lot of movies that he would just be in for 5 minutes and get killed.
Right.
You know, he was in like he was in Goodfellas 5 minutes, you know, True Romance 5 minutes. Like he was in his movies just, you know, not I don't remember him until like Coming to America, but I remember him until like Pulp Fiction, really.
Yeah.
Or no, was it that seven of that dang when he was a crackhead,
Um,
with Wesley Snipes in it.
it's not New Jack City.
No, it's
Um,
dang, I can't even think of it. I can't even think what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
When he was Gator. I don't remember him until he was Gator, you know?
Yeah. And you know what, Trev? I think the other thing, man, is you know, you gotta look into your network and like keep that expanding.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I truly always believe like the people, I mean, I've known you for 30 years, right? So I always think like the people who you know, as long as you're authentic with them, they will do whatever you want long term. Like they call you for help, haven't talked to you for a long time. Yes, like let's catch up, let's talk. Like when you talk to those people, like you haven't missed a beat. So, I always believe like your old network and then you have your new network is like your college and then post college, and like you continue to expand those things. And, you just kind of build this diverse group of people where you can go to with different problems or different opportunities and kind of, just learn new things.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Well, we got to ask, we always ask at the end of one question before, end of every show. All right. At one point in your career or life, we always go through these low points. How did you get out of your lowest point? And did you have help or did you just kind of get out of it yourself?
Yeah. That's a tough question. You know what? I think it's a little of both, right? I think internally you got to look at that low point and say, like, one, how did I get here? Is this something that I caused myself? Is this something that I'm doing externally? What does that look like? Right. So I think once you diagnose the issue of like why you're there, then you can either say, hey, look, I need to change X, Y, and Z, or you say, I need to go get help and do those things. I think for me, it was more of, hey, like, I think I'm doing a great thing here, or I got injured. Like, I'm really depressed about being injured again and not being able to play. What are the things that I can control to make me happy? Right. Like some of these things you can't control. You can only control what you can control. And right. I think once I understood that piece of it, it like set my mind on a different path. My sophomore year of college, I had a Liz Frank injury and I missed 18 games. So, for me, and I'd gotten hurt the summer before my freshman. So like I had a run of injuries where I was kind of like, is this just me, like who I am? But then I realized I got flat feet and I can't control that. That's not, I can't do anything about that. Like, what can I do to help correct this so this doesn't happen again? And so then you go out and get help for that. But I think internally, your mental state is, you got to be able to say, all right, how can I get out of this first? And then, do I need to do this internally or go get help?
That makes sense, man. Like I said, I think, you can either assess the problem for yourself or just, like I said, like you said, get some help for yourself. So,
yeah.
Well, all right, Mike, man. Like I said, he is one of the California legends. I always, consider him one of those because he was one of the top players at a top position at the top time. I don't think California will ever be as deep as the 97 class was. I don't know, 97 might have been the deepest class I've ever seen, like as far as like high school kids, across the country.
Agreed. Yeah,
so
totally agree.
with Elton Brand, Ron Artest, Tracy McGrady,
Lamar,
Lamar Odom, the list can go on.
Khalid Elamine.
Khalid Alameen, and man, I was like, 97 was stupid. Shane Battier. I mean,
Right.
I was like, 97 was stupid. Anyway, but like I said, I want to thank you, Mike, for coming on my show. I appreciate it. People don't realize I've been trying to get Mike on here for like a year. Mike was like, man, I don't know. And then, I've had to pull rank, get his dad on first. So his dad's like, come on, Travis's show.
Whatever they tell me to do, man.
No, like I said, I appreciate it. I know Mike's a private guy, so I won't ask him to, unless he wants to, shout out his social media, things like that. But if he doesn't want to, I won't, I'll back up. But you can if you want to.
I think I'm private on everything.
Yeah, so there you go. Like I said, he's low key, people. He's really low key. But as far as myself, you can check me out, on this show, obviously, An Athlete's Journey. And if you listen to this far, thank you. Please like, share, subscribe on the Believe Network. We're also, in the process of putting the show on YouTube. So, we're going to have highlights and little clips of, like example, me and Mike talking, as well as putting on the whole show on YouTube, So, we're expanding. We're doing some things that's coming up pretty soon. You can follow me at Travis W. Reed, REED, on Instagram, and Travis W. Reed on Facebook. Like I said, I post all my social media and what I'm doing on those two social sites. And like I said, we'll catch you next week, depending on when the show comes out. But I want to say thank you for listening. We appreciate it, and we out. Peace.